We'll be beginning with the next session, Future of Pro AV Managed Services in India. For this session, I would like to invite Prashant Govindan, Sir, Director, India, Generation AV, on stage, along with the panelists, Kuldip Kamat, Managing Director, Allwave-AV Systems, Kelvin Ashby-King, Principal Consultant, Clarity Consulting, and Arora, Chief Technical Officer at Qubix Technologies. Before we begin the session, I would also like to introduce them, the panelists on stage. Prashant Govindan is Director, India with Generation AV. He has over 20 years of experience in starting up and growing businesses, specializing in audio, video, lighting, and AV IT technologies. Kuldip Kamat is an innovator and risk taker with a focus on being anti-fragile, lover of aphorisms, team builder, and problem solver. He is also passionate and curious about technology and the impact it creates in the professional and personal lives. Kelvin Ashby-King spent a lot of time in the university theater than in lectures, as he discovered his real passion was in lighting, sound, and set design. Kelvin has been based in India for the last 26 years. Rhythm Arora is an experienced technology architect with a demonstrated history of working in the audiovisual, IoT, and information technology industry, and is skilled in workspace technology, collaboration, acoustics and electroacoustics, advanced home automation systems, and professional home theaters. I would like the panelists to begin the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch, or at least had a good brunch. And knowing by the traffic that's outside, all of that is going to get pretty well digested by the time you step out of here. Anyway, my name is Prashant, and I've been in this industry for over 25 years now. Been doing various roles with various organizations, and it's a privilege to be here to moderate this session on AV. I think this is a slightly more broad-based session, though the title says Managed Services, AV Managed Services. We will kind of digress a little bit here and there, but having said that, this is an exciting area. This is something that we've been talking about in the last few years. The pandemic only aggravated, or rather pushed us in this direction, and it's a passionate topic for me. And we have some fantastic panelists here today who can lend some light on some of the perspectives. Kelvin, I've known him for as long as I've been in the industry, and he's a leading light of change. He's done over 1,000 projects, well over 1,000 projects. We've stopped counting after 1,000, actually. So Kelvin knows this industry like no one else, and he knows the Indian industry more than any outsider. That I can say he's now pretty much Indian in that sense. Yeah, quite Indian than pretty much all of us, I guess. And Rhythm, dear friend as well, and I've known Rhythm and his father for the past almost 2 decades now. And they're the pioneers of AV across several verticals. I think I cannot think of a better person to represent corporate AV and hospitality and retail and pretty much multidisciplinary AV kind of verticals. And Kuldip, again, veteran AV person. I mean, he's been very successful in the BFSI space, and he's been running a very successful company. Very, very technical, very insightful. I think he will lend some very deep insights into this whole topic. And let me start with Kuldip here. Kuldip, we were discussing on the sidelines just before we came on stage, and you said that you've literally done a PhD on this topic. So
I wish. That's like putting me right on the spot.
But you know, he floored me, and he was like full on for the first. I'm like, yes, Kuldip, let's save it for the stage. But Kuldip has such deep insights, such a vast amount of knowledge on this topic. So I'll start the first question with him. Kuldip, what exactly is a managed service? For the benefit of the audience here, this might seem like a slightly naive question, but from an outsider's perspective, can you shed some light into what a managed service is And I'll pose the same question to the rest of the participants. But Kuldip, what exactly is a managed service and how does Pro AV figure in this managed services space?
Yeah, thanks, Prashant. So we've kind of dabbled in this space for ever since we were in the COVID lockdowns and trying to figure out what this, how technology could change globally, right? One of the, so what is managed service, right? So normally integrators are used to speccing for a project and quoting possibly based on price or a variety of other factors, and then doing a quote-unquote hang and bang job and then moving on, right? And then there is almost very little thought given to a post-sale service. There's some sort of a contract stitched in with loose terms, and the client is not left with any sort of certainty around the performance of the system. So the way I would design a managed service in the Pro AV space is how do you look at the life cycle of the entire project? When is the refresh happening? And then you ask questions to the end user, like, is it 7-year refresh? Is it a 5-year refresh? Is it an 8-year refresh? And what are we doing for the entire, for the life cycle of these 7 years? Now, a managed service contract could be very well along lines of, does it mean it's a leased service, which includes everything right from replacement, firmware upgrades, next day business support, replacement warranties, etc. And so a managed service contract, by definition, is, in my books, is something which looks at not just the price and the delivery, but the entire uptime and the entire product and project duration of the entire corporate real estate facility from a Pro AV perspective.
That's very interesting. I mean, it's not just the sale of a product, it's also the entire life cycle of it, which comprises maintenance and firmware updates. And, so basically it encompasses a product and service model, if I'm correct.
Yes, it's a product and a service model. As I think through, like if you think about, let's say, a project which has multiple MTR rooms or Zoom rooms, right? And let's just put yourself in the shoes of the end user. What are you really looking for in an integrator, right? What are you really looking for in a, even if it's a consultant or an integrator, what are you looking from the team, right? You're looking for something which goes beyond the 60 or the 90 days that the project is, there's ribbon cutting, everything's done, and everyone moves on. Well, what happens about the reliability of, a divisible training room? What happens about things like firmware upgrades? In certain cases we've had to ensure certain switches and scalers which sit on the network have had to have remote firmware upgrades because this particular BFSI client ended up saying that could be a flaw when my team is making presentations. Another manufacturer needed to kind of do another patch on an antenna-based system because what people are speaking in one room was actually picked up and transferred to the room upstairs of another completely different customer because they were using, things of that sort because the antenna placement was somewhere else. So when you look at a managed service contract, you also think in terms of things like security.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, information security is such a big piece today, and everyone's talking about how to secure your meeting spaces and how to secure your corporate communications. I mean, it's not just important to secure your email and that sort of thing. It's also important to make sure that whatever is, in your PA systems and your conference systems do not permeate into someone else's space, which is basically invasion of privacy in a way, but also revealing sensitive corporate information that might accidentally get transferred. Rhythm, would you want to shed some light? I mean, this is great insight from a corporate perspective. And I know you also do a variety of projects. You do corporates as well. Maybe you can shed some more light on this. But in addition to that, maybe you want to tell us a little bit about hospitality space, which is also booming in India right now. And how does a managed AV service make sense in that space?
Nice. So, we were also working on this managed service platform last year and, post-COVID, lots of buzz around it. So first thing, we were trying to position as a uptime as a service model. So, we're not selling the equipment, we're selling the uptime, which means if we are selling a meeting room or a training room, it's the uptime what we are charging for. So let's say if the room is down for a few hours, we don't bill you for that. So that was the first go-to market for that. The second thing which we realized was that it has to be a DSITC kind of a system. We cannot provide a managed service on a customer's BOQ. The BOQ has to be completely ours. We have to design it, we have to do it, and we have to also maintain that level of inventory as standby. And if we have products from 20, 30 manufacturers, we cannot do it. So if it has to be a TV, it has to be same TV all across. And of course, different sizes, but it has to be one. And so that later, we also realized when we studied the model very deeply that in the first round, when you give managed service to a customer, you may not make that much money, but when you do it as a second round, and there are plenty of customers who are ready to take it as a second round, who want the entire system just, let's say, for 1 year or for 2 years. So let's say they're in an incubation space for 1 year, 2 years, and they want what they want, but they don't want to buy it. And so many times we find customers like that. So that was another very good revenue stream which we found. But eventually also going to hospitality. But then I'll tell you the problems why it doesn't work. Hospitality also, we tried, we spoke to some customers. They were very, very excited because they didn't want to pay upfront, and they could just push these bills into the operator contract. But all in all, the problem was that if the customer doesn't pay on time, there is no remorse we have. There is no legal system which will let us go and exercise those contracts and get that equipment out of that office. And that's not what we want to do. Right. And, so overall, if you look at the cost over a period of 5 years, we thought, okay, it's about 100 to 150%, but it didn't work out. Hospitality customers were very, very excited. They were very excited to take projectors, screens, I mean, stuff which has has a faster refresh cycle other than background music. They're very, very keen to get it, but nobody wants to do a credit risk on them.
Yeah, that's an interesting take on hospitality. I had just one question. Does it essentially mean the end of the AMC contract as we know it?
No, AMC, they own the equipment. In this case, they don't own the equipment, and they keep using it. And if we don't go and fix it, they'll call somebody else who will come and fix it. So the equipment is theirs, the risk is ours, and it just doesn't work that way.
That's excellent. Kelvin, I'd like to kind of make a slightly broader question to you. In your experience of so many decades in the industry, do you see this as a paradigm shift in a business model? And if so, is that a good thing? Or are we inching towards the commoditization of AV?
I think COVID brought a lot of opportunities. It takes me back to Ian when he came out with that concept of a meeting room in a box, which failed dismally at the time. But actually, I think that's where we're heading. I think we're heading to where people like Extron and Crestron have been trying to push a total Crestron solution or a total Extron solution. So I think it has become a commodity, and certainly that is for general meeting rooms, smaller spaces, huddle rooms. Those are going to be bought by the IT. It'll come in a box. A contractor, electrician will shove it on the wall, and it's finished and done. But I'm going to go back. I think I'm going to challenge your concept of what is a managed service. Right. I think we've been talking, or at least what I heard Kuldip and Rhythm talking about, are AMC and service contracts. It's taking responsibility for it post the installation. I think a managed service is where the complete responsibility, including probably network these days, has to sit in one person's hands. And they're going to deliver everything from the top to the end. Right. And I think that is happening in mid-sized companies that don't have large IT departments. They don't have the in-house skill. And I think there's a huge opportunity to offer a design to operate service, which for me is a managed service. But I think in the very small people and in the very large places, that's certainly not going to happen. I think we're seeing a change in corporate AV with most of the large companies now having their own AV team on board as part of IT. So I think the opportunity for large-scale managed services in that top-end sector are not there. I think hospitality, which Rhythm was talking about, is a totally different problem. I think over time we're going to see a complete dropout of fit-out of hotels other than cabling. Background music will go in, everything else will go in, but I believe that we will move to a more American model of an outside vendor runs the facilities for the hotel takes a cut, and the vendor provides all the equipment and the services. I think the idea of a lease service also came up probably 5 or 6 years ago. There were a couple of people running around, actually. I think it was an idea that emanated out of, Udi, what's that company you used to work for? Black Box now. What were they before? AGC, the CEO of AGC at that time, came up with this idea of providing a complete leased type solution for corporates. And I don't think anybody ever picked it up. I mean, when we were talking before, there is no monetary reason why large companies would want to do that when that service is going to cost them 1.5 times what it is to do themselves. So, yes, I think there is managed services. I think that's going to be in mid-sized companies, but it will not be at the bottom and it will not be at the top.
That's right. Yeah.
I think there's some fantastic points made by both Rhythm and Kelvin. I just want to kind of add on to those, maybe a little bit on the experience side. So I would say instead of commoditization, I would use the word standardization. And the reason I say this is, we've kind of been fortunate enough to be like the India arm for many global rollouts as a part of like some of these larger PSNI Global Alliance rollouts. And one of the aspects that struck me was it's not as commoditized as people think it is. Without sounding like a complete AV nerd, like all of us have been in rooms where we've had to install, let's say, 2 displays on a drywall, a video conference bar, and what height it should be mounted at, what should be the conduiting structure for that, and how is the native experience, or does this room require 3 microphones of X by Z manufacturer, and are they going to be Omni, or they're going to be HyperCard, or those kind of things. Plus, is there going to be is this too close to the pantry, and is it an important room? What I'm trying to get out of, there's so many moving parts that we as integrators see that each meeting room or a conference room needs to be thought of, and yet you got to standardize it. So it's almost an ironical situation to be in. So yes, the product costing might be commoditized, and people might say, this particular widget costs me $440. How much can you sell it for, right? So I just want to get that thing that I feel that this industry will be standardized a lot more. And it's also interesting to see the standardization dynamics which happen in India versus, let's say, you get a peek into what's happening in the EMEA or the Southeast Asia region. Like, how do they look at it? What are labor rates looking like? What do they look at it from that perspective? And if you're saying that we're only looking at it from an India perspective, I think there's a lot of growth opportunity. That's the first point. Second, I like what Rhythm is doing in terms of not billing the customer for the time the room is down. I think that's very forward thinking. Maybe I'll steal that. I think that is the right way to take the ownership of a managed service contract. Also want to share what we're doing. What we think is a managed service contract is we have our own 16x6 NOC, which runs Monday to Saturday. We also do, we use tools like Jira, Confluence to make sure that the inventory is mapped correctly, the MAC IDs are mapped correctly. We have the inventory of the smallest bit of one room in Hyderabad and the second room in Bangalore for an end user. Because sometimes it's amusing almost to us that end users don't have a complete run on their own inventory. And so this is taken also as refresh when we do preventive maintenance checks, when we do a part of the AMC. So our quote-unquote mantra is to try to be a lot more predictable and more responsive. We try to standardize, but one of the things we've seen is that you can't force an end user to say you got to only use, display manufacturer X, because many of these companies, what we have seen, come with global rollout standards. So they will say that we will want to use X versus Y. So we try in our design build projects to be a little more standard. But yes, so there will be there'll be a lot of opportunities in terms of providing that world-class after-sales service experience, number one, and also doing a job in terms of things like, I was going to get this a few minutes later, like things like remote monitoring and remote firmware upgrades and remote scheduling of room sweeps. Stuff like that is going to be there very, I would say it's a 2024, 2025 kind of a rollout.
Brilliant. I think that's so much of insight. Thank you, Kuldip, for that. I mean, one of the key things I, as a techie, get drawn into is some of the technology that's enabling this vast change. Can you throw some light? I mean, maybe three of you can throw some light separately on what are you seeing in terms of technology that's being implemented to enable remote monitoring, remote firmware updates, and I'll come to a favorite question of mine in a minute, but the point I'm trying to make is how can manufacturers build on this and take a cue from this on some of the things that you're trying to implement?
So we've been testing a program, half API-based, half home-built, with some hardware from Surgex like Squid, wherein every day in the morning, as a target at 7:30 a.m., the room restarts. It does a power-on self-test. If it checks everything, we call the APIs of the UC device, the TV, and everything. Once everything is checked, if the room is okay, it's okay. If the room is not okay, it automatically sends an invite to the calendar. It blocks the room so that nobody else can book it for the day. And it also generates a gate pass for our technicians to go in and check based on our calendar.
And this is happening now?
This is happening now.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That sounds straight out of a science fiction movie, correct?
Yeah.
So, Kelvin, do you want to add some insight? Are you seeing a lot of this being requested by customers themselves, or is this our forward thing? Our industry is basically stepping up the game. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm probably going to come back on the negative side of that. I think there is still a lot of resolution to do within the industry itself about roles and responsibilities. And as we make this transfer from AV being separate from IT to becoming agent to IT, then I think this sort of processes that IT have, which is obviously where rhythm is coming from, are going to be processes that we put into the AV space as well. I think right now we're really dependent on the management software, the upgrade software from individual manufacturers. There is very little coherent to pull that together across multiple products. Some of the control manufacturers have tried that. But it comes down to, yes, we've got to find something which is going to be able to provide that complete package manageability of the system. Yep.
Am I allowed to take names of manufacturers?
Yeah, absolutely.
Before I get into specifics, the way we've seen this, we do a lot of what I call playing in the sandpit, just testing stuff in our office all the time. And I think 70-80% of it, honestly, it just doesn't work. And we want to kind of keep doing that, because before we actually take anything out to the market, we want to make sure that it's pretty robust and agile, right? So before I get on to the specifics, I feel in the early days, manufacturers like Crestron and Extron with the Fusion and the GVEs, had this platform which worked very well for their own infrastructure of things. But then what happens is suddenly the customer says, what about my displays? What about if I have another manufacturer which is similar to Crestron but not quite? Or what if I have a BIAM DSP and things of that sort in? And yes, you can sort of do it, but then you're tied into that thing. So there are manufacturers today like Visibility One, Uteligy, there's Domots, And there are I think there are about 12 of them. I mean, you guys can write to me and I'm happy to share that information. We're currently testing a lot of that. I think eventually, one should try to, this is my opinion, try to figure out what the customer, one is educating the customer. What do they really want? What's available in the market? And number two, do they really want it? Yeah. Do they want their systems to kind of do room sweeps at 2 in the morning? Are there areas which are critical, which are not critical? What is a managed service for them? Are they more comfortable to say that, at least in India, are they more comfortable to say that your contract would be, I need next day business support, and that is a managed service contract, which probably will work in India for several years more because labor costs are lower. But what if you say that, so I know, for example, some partners of ours in the US, they charge customers a lower amount if they have a remote monitoring tool that they can monitor on behalf of the customer so that they don't have to roll the trucks and they don't have to waste several $100s sending a human being on site.
That's great, but from an Indian perspective, I mean, we have all the people who can roll, 10 different trucks at given point of time and block all entry gates for all you know. But jokes aside, which is what is exactly happening.
That argument is used for everything, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm sick of hearing that argument. I think we're certainly looking to middleware. The days where one manufacturer is trying to control that sphere, I think, are disappearing. We're looking to middleware. I think we're looking to middleware also for management of MTRs. I think having a MTR which is only Microsoft or an MTR which is only Zoom. There's a new Indian startup. They're bringing into market a new software which will allow you to use 4 meeting systems on one MTR. And that little window is going to get blown away as well. So I think we're really looking for a middleware software which is going to be able to tie everything in. The fact we're moving on to IP with everything, that's certainly supporting that process of being able to bring a middleware in. And I think Kuldip was saying, do people want it? Yes, I think people now understand that every time that a meeting room is down for 4 hours, it's actually lost money. And if we can keep the meeting rooms up, and also we have to make it more simplistic for usage. It really does have to get to plug and play. HD video conferencing never worked. No matter what we did with it, we could never really make it work, the codec-based version. Soft video conference came in, it was good, as easy and as good as making a mobile call. Suddenly it's everywhere. COVID certainly pushed that, but it was already happening. So yeah, I think a middleware, a series of softwares that can provide both the support level and the management level of the systems, and also provide higher levels of security, because that is now becoming a very big issue for everybody. Yeah.
So I'll come to my favorite question now. What do you think could be the role of AI in all of this development? I mean, is there a role of AI to begin with? I mean, our first question is, there is this whole AI buzzword that's happening right now. Is it even relevant in this context? And if so, are you seeing any possibilities, or are you seeing any actual implementations where AI is employed? One, maybe from a predictive model where you say, okay, that lamp is going to go down in the next 20 hours or something, and you have some kind of a predictive mechanism for failure rates and so on and so forth. I mean, I don't know. I'm asking this as an open-ended question.
I think, AI for this, I've been trying to figure out if there's a way to do it, but months of thinking I've not been able to figure out. The only use I can figure out is to write that contract, which AI can write beautifully, where you put in the parameters, it can do the contract for you, and maybe a support bot. But actually implementing AI into a system, I mean, it's way above, way kicking above our weight as integrators. The manufacturers have to do it. I mean, plus, can as integrators, can we even afford AI people in the teams? Like, how can we do it?
It's an open-ended future question, so maybe not now. Maybe in 3 years' time or 5 years' time.
The answer will change. Then, we don't know what's next.
So I'm going to try answering this as not an integrator, right? One of the things I'm always, for example, we had this massive supply chain crisis a couple of years back, right? And everyone seems to have forgotten about it, but but I'm sure it could happen again. And you could also like a shortage could be followed by a glut, so you might actually end up having a lot of production. So if you're let's say a large manufacturer and you have warehouses across the country or across the world, how do you look at real time? How do you look at demand planning? How do you look at forecasting? How do you get real time decision making? And a lot of that, it's how do you run schedules? How do you run capacity planning? Things of that appear to be very simple Excel based, kind of things. But no, it's almost you're running the same algorithm multiple times in a day, multiple scenarios to come out with the best answer. And I think that's where AI will blow a lot of things out of the water. On the business side of things, I'm not really focusing a lot on. So, for example, I know. For example, Biamp has this beautiful room match. It's called room match, right? Yeah. And if you see it, and I'm sure there's a lot of AI or optimize what's basically optimization algorithms in terms of where's the loudspeaker, what's the size of the room, what's the reflective surface area, how if I ping a sound, how much does it come back, what's the RT60 of the room, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I think there would be a lot of cool applications, but I agree with Rhythm. It'll be built by the manufacturers.
So in terms of an application kind of model, do you think that AI could give you some answers and making your lives a little more simpler?
On project delivery, yes. To allude to the point that I made before in terms of capacity planning, maybe even in terms of, let's say you have a complex project and you want to figure out how many people should work where, at what location, and keep running the reschedule based on the skills, like project delivery, things like that. It could be pretty interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we make AI a huge thing. AI can be as simple as continuously looking at echo cancellation and optimizing the echo cancellation rhythm, a logarithm for that area. So AI is going to play a big part in what we're doing, but it will, as Kuldip and Rhythm were both saying, it will be manufacturer driven, but it will start with the small problems. And there are softwares coming now. If you look at there is a level of AE and Harman's new Muse system and their new platform, which will come out at Infocom for DSP. But it will be segmentized. It will not be a big solution for solving a room. Tuning a room, if we can give a tool to the IT department which will allow them to do what no system integrator can do, which is actually auditorily tune a room. Yeah, lots of programmers in AV system integration companies, but hardly any audio engineers, inverted commas. So a tool that an AI SI could go in, that's AI based into a room and have it automatically set itself up. Yeah, that's where AI will play a part. But it will be small tools, making a suite of bigger tools.
We did something fun in office last month I'd like to share, and maybe you guys can try it out. We actually paid $20 for the paid version of ChatGPT 4 and asked it, this was the exact prompt. I'm an audiovisual designer with 10 years experience. Design the right unified collaboration room for me with 2 Samsung displays, 4 USB-C ports, and I would prefer the switching to be on Lightware's USB-C platform, and recommend me the right room scheduling. It was complete as if we were laymen sitting in as facility guys, right? And the last prompt was, please give me a tabular form with the exact model numbers and kindly design the room according to Avixa specifications.
And what happened?
It gave me the exact BOQ. It gave us the exact BOQ.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that
No, I'm saying this as a fun thing, right? Obviously, I mean, it probably makes the consultant's role even more relevant to validate that. I'm just saying that, as you said, it's a tool. But, you know, it's like like life before Excel and life
Oh,
after
absolutely.
Excel.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I did the same thing in doing an array speaker system. Someone said ChatGPT can design array speaker systems. It came up with a BOQ. And it came up with a BOQ because it was able to search through many pieces of information. And it brings it back. There is no intelligence applied to that design other than the generalistic information which is available.
It'll get there. It's getting there. It's getting there with ChatGPT 4. It's getting there. It's getting a little more. It's not like, so I did another fun search. Give me the lowest cost for such and such codec in Asia, and it actually gave me the cost for that with 3 options. Now that is pretty scary stuff, right?
Yeah, but that's only searching databases.
Exactly. So it's like being a good, but it's honestly, Kelvin, it's going to be more important than saying I'm a reasonably smart person who can do a search, because it will get generative in a sense that it will start generating. So if you think about, let's talk about generating a bill of materials for a 24-seater boardroom, right? It still today, without ChatGPT and stuff, it still requires some amount of years of experience, and it requires some amount of not just technical, but non-technical, business acumen type skills to design the right solution, what's available, or this looks nice, but it's not good for India, that kind of stuff, right? So that is kind of a knowledge base built above a database. And I think AI can do that aspect of it well. Now, where the human intelligence will be required is to A, check the grunt work, and B, is to spend a little more time on the creative side of things, spend more time in terms of, if what are we going to do for bespoke AV applications?
Yeah, no, I'm not at all disagreeing with you. I think there's certainly going to be an outcome of AI over time. But I think you brought out the right point that generating a BOQ without the secondary factors you referred to, an understanding of client expectation, an understanding of user experience, those are things that ChatGPT can't add to it at this stage. Yep.
So currently, I think what you're basically saying is you can very well use AI for design, optimization, maybe.
Very rough, very rough. And it's not just the AV industry. Every industry will use it for, as Rhythm said, writing up a service contract. We did that for fun as well. We tried to write up a managed services. Write me a managed service contract. The next point is, what about non-compete clauses? Okay, what about blah 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 clauses? And it kept modifying the contract again and again and again. So you could also possibly, if you're a lawyer, you can say, all right, tell me the cases in India where this was not, the judge overturned this decision based on so and so. I think a lot of the grunt work, why people actually show up to work and come back, will in the next 2 or 3 years, in my mind, get resolved by generative AI. But that doesn't mean that
the problems will end.
Exactly. In fact, it could explode. That you would really require to be more thoughtful, more creative, more diligent around project design and delivery.
That's what they used to say, smartphones and dumb people. So now that's what will happen, smart computers, and there'll be even dumber people.
Which brings me to an interesting side point, basically, is that despite all the AI in the world, you will still need people to run it.
Of course.
You'll still need the right inputs, and you'll still need a good engine, or rather the good inputs for AI to generate good output, correct?
Yeah, and I think, coming back to our AV, like we still need, it's I always say, we're in the business where rooms talk to rooms, not people talk to people. If you and I do a Teams call, there's no AV integrator involved, but when it's a room. So the room is a very physical thing, and it'll always be, because that's the whole point of it being a room, that there are a couple of people sitting in the room, and of course there is some AI here and there, and there's some technology on the other side, but there will be microphones, there will be stuff. So, I think in our foreseeable future, it looks like we are still very connected to the physical world, very much to the infra, very much to the tech. Imagine the world or the tech companies can say how that they advance very fast and they stay on the cutting edge, but I still see customers putting 2 LAN ports on each desk in case the Wi-Fi fails. And I haven't seen that happening from last 5, 7, 10 years, but they still do it. So, I think we still stay relevant for some more time in the hardware industry until there's a paradigm shift where people say, like we have to
all
do something
of hardware
different.
becomes virtualized and everything runs off.
But that still
a
runs on
massive
hardware.
Server farm somewhere, and then you
But
just
that's
see.
hardware.
I know.
I agree. I had a conversation yesterday with a client who was insisting on 500 vertical lux for a video conference. And I said, sorry, which century have you come out of? Cameras don't need 500 lux vertical any longer. It's about the relationship between background, foreground, and downward lighting. And those percentages have to be correct to get a good picture and image. But it doesn't matter if your vertical lux is at 100, as long as the other two are balanced, the camera is now capable of handling a range between 50 lux and 500 lux. And I think that's, that change within people's minds is really hard. This is a huge company, worldwide presence, and they're still insisting on 500 lux, but they want 0.55 LPD. And how do you do the two together?
Yeah, that's a good point. And Rhythm, to your thing, you say it's physical. I think we cannot ignore the physics of the design of the room, right? And I think, Prashant, you taught me when I was still a rookie, but I still take those lessons, and we still do a lot of the very, very fundamental audio lessons to the new guys, just to show people how hard this industry is. It's not as easy as, I'm sorry to say, a lot of IT guys just say you got to slap on a couple of displays, throw 3 mics in, and you're done, and that's a MTR. And we do lose on price, but we do end up trying to educate the customer, saying that when you look at a contract, it's not just, you got to design it well, and then you got to service it well, and there's an entire life cycle. So it's like, if you're not inherently valuing that aspect, then honestly, we think the IT guy is a better fit for you. It's not us. And we literally say that. Those guys are the right guys, so we are not the ones for you.
Yeah, I mean, but still, I mean, the thing is that everybody has to coexist at this point of time.
So to your point.
Oh, everybody has to coexist. You have to change. Yeah, and it's not about coexisting. It's about, if I think when, I come from the days when there was no AV. A projector was the size of a boat anchor and gave 100 ANSI lumens. Yeah, I'm joke not. I think that we're going through a continual change, and we have been. We've changed projector types, screen materials have changed, technology has changed for video conferencing, and I think we have to continue to evolve and change with that. We have to keep stepping back and take another look at what the problem is, and how do we use our current set of tools and anticipated tools to solve that problem and deliver the user experience. And it's about user experience and about what technology we've got available today.
Absolutely. You can, I'm sure you see a lot of customers who say, oh, this is amazing, just put this X board out here, it's so nice, I played with it, but let's put it in a cafeteria. And it makes no sense because there's no, the mic can only pick up so much, the loudspeakers are not powerful enough, the camera is no good. So you see it in one environment and then you want to take it out to a racetrack, it's not going to work. And it's amazing that even people with 20 years experience don't seem to get some of these basic things, right? And then that's where if the IT integrator does that, well, more power to them, because 3 months later, guess what? They're going to come back to an AV integrator and say, that didn't work.
Yeah, but aren't you not seeing that the IT integrator in AV is going down drastically? Like the problem which was there before, maybe 3-4 years back, like people are asking for specialized AV integrators?
Absolutely. That will happen because, again, it brings me back to the point which we were discussing 20 minutes back. Standard MTRs and Zoom rooms are not commoditized, they're standardized, and there is so my example is IKEA or McDonald's, right? We all think that it is a very easy meal, but do you guys know how complex the operating model and the operating system is for you to get a chicken or a veg burger in the mall next door, and how all that system operates on the back end all the way to the headquarters of McDonald's? It's a complex process, and they have to get the consistency right, they have to get the standardization right, the hygiene right, everything, the training of the people. Now, will the audiovisual industry get to the IKEA or a McDonald's level? That's utopia, but it's easy to say McDonald's commoditized. It's not. It's standardized. That's what I was trying to say.
The bigger question is, do you want to go down that route? Do you want to be a McDonald's
I
or
think
an
Kevin
IKEA
wants
for
to
the AV
say
world?
something else.
No, I can't agree with the McDonald's.
Fries with that order,
Kentucky
please?
Fried's much better. No, I still disagree. I think we've had standardization for years. I can show you everybody's... right now, an IT company can go and buy from Poly, from Samsung, and deliver a room. And it will be 85 to 90%.
Exactly. It won't be 100% because
No.
the operating model is not defined.
But that's okay. Most people accept 90%. And the point I was making when we were talking earlier is, I'm not so interested in those rooms anymore because they are just a rubber stamp. I've got a project with 400 rooms in it. They're all going to be the same, but there are other things for us to do. There are cafeteria spaces, all hands meetings, auditoriums, which, training rooms where we're able to spend more time.
I agree. So I'm talking from the view of an integrator. We did recently a 400 room project in Hyderabad, and it was very, very standard, right? Literally. But if you look at the planning it took to post design to the execution and then the post sales support, Kelvin, it's a lot of work, and you need to have an operating model for that. It's very easy to say that I'll just put a neat board and 2 mics in and I'm done. For 400, whatever, XYZ number of rooms, you need, integrators or the IT providers will need to have an operating model. Without a successful operating model, the concept of a managed service might not have the 7-year or 8-year window. That's why we've seen so many so-called large names fall after 3 years or 4 years, not because they're not smart. Honestly, they're smarter than us. It's because they don't have an operating model that's sustainable.
So I think both are valid points. Would you agree on all of us, right? I mean, what Kuldip is saying is basically you need a standardization model where you can work pretty much clockwork and deliver 400 rooms on the fly. That being one. What Kelvin is alluding to is a different kind of sort of a room which is highly customizable. So going with the restaurant example, I mean, there is McDonald's on the one end, you absolutely need that. And you have a gourmet restaurant where the chef curates every menu. The chef basically, it's a Michelin star restaurant. So in other words, should we turn Michelin star chefs or should we become McDonald's?
No, I'll answer that. Is Zara bigger or is Louis Vuitton bigger?
Sorry?
Is Zara a bigger company or Louis Vuitton a bigger company?
I don't know, you probably know
Louis
the
Vuitton.
answer.
Louis Vuitton.
I'll ask my wife.
Many times over. So Zara is all, you can say, McDonald's commodity, but there is still a very, very big demand for premium services, and I think premium companies will keep buying premium services more and more.
Agree. I'm just saying that in this case, your coexistence mark is important. Unless you see a market where there will be only premium integrators who will only do those bespoke areas. And without naming the name of the client, there are also very fancy clients with fancy spaces where they call event spaces or yada, yada, yada. And then you look at their drawings, which are a part of a global deck or a global spec deck. And all we're doing is, well, I can say that, yes, we're doing something cool and cutting edge. But what we're actually doing is taking that experience and building the 14th or the 15th exact replica of that room, which looks wow, looks amazing, but it has a very nice spec and a nice operating model. So would you say that's gourmet, or would you say that's a very nice McDonald's meal?
I know you caught me out. No, I think we are. Look, as the point you made before is, every meeting room is slightly different, and even though we may do 400, they're not all exactly the same shape. And I think that also comes with I think the delivery of. There's going to be a space for AV companies. I'm not one of the people predicting AV companies will disappear, but their real marketplace is going to change. It is going to become bespoke. It is going to become special use. And it's widening out in areas of house of worship. It's widening out into themed entertainment. It is widening out into nightclubs and bars. There is a lot more happening. And I think that's the exciting thing about being in India at the moment is that whole museum market, the value entertainment market, the experience market, that's growing. And that is the shift. So the IT companies will take over plugging in 400 meeting rooms, but we'll get the cream of it.
So that
And we'll
brings
get
me
the
to a
specialized bits at the top.
slightly different question. Does it take a different kind of an integrator to, maybe have one set of integrators who do this cookie cutter solution, keep delivering bam, bam, bam on a daily basis? And does it take a different kind of a mindset, a different kind of skill set?
So what is the skill set at McDonald's for a hamburger flipper?
Yeah, but
And
very
what is
highly
the- what is
standardized, and
Ve-
they
so,
have
yeah.
very good supply chain and very good.
I think in this case, I think it would be like a test cricketer versus a T20 cricketer. I mean, that's the,
Yeah. I think yes, we already have various levels of system integrators. We have ones which are very good at meeting rooms. I have ones that I will choose to do a museum because it's a different set of skills. And I think, yeah. Yeah. So I think it's continually changing.
yeah. And there could be a cross. There could be, like we're seeing, there could be some test cricketers who make that transition to T20 and vice versa. But you see a large number of guys who are only playing like T10 and T20 cricket leagues, the least bit interested in playing the bespoke or the longer game, right? And I think that will happen. It's a very conscious choice that some integrators take. I think Rhythm and I were chatting about the residential market for a bit. We took a conscious decision to just completely exit that market, not even do one home theater like for the last 7-8 years, just because we felt that we're not going to do a good job of it.
Yeah.
Rhythm, you want to add some perspective? I mean, where do you straddle? I mean, do you sit across both the worlds? Do you do custom jobs? Do you do the standardized ones? Which ones do you do?
We do all sorts of jobs, and we, want to continue doing it as long as we can. And I think the way we will solve it is by people. We'll hire the right people to do the job.
Which is the next question I was coming to. What kind of people do we look for when we kind of build an organization? I know you've both bootstrapped and built your own organizations. You've pretty much seen the startup days, and now you're really doing well. So the kind of people who kind of fuel this growth, you've kind of chosen the right kind of people. You've now become aware of the kind of skill sets you're looking for in the market. My question is of two parts. One is, what kind of people do you look for actively in the market? And this is for the benefit of the audience and for the online audience who might be watching this. What are the key skills that you're looking for, and in the broader sense, what do you need from the average graduate to work for a company like yours, or with Kelvin's, for example? And what kind of career opportunities do you provide?
Okay, so I'll just say that we look for very basic things. They should have great communication, good sense of what's happening around them, and some knack towards technology, and they should be willing to work hard. Because this industry is something, it needs work. You cannot just do a course of, let's say, Ruby on Rails or C++ and do it. There is no formal training of AV available. It needs, whatever you do, it needs a certain amount of experience of at least 1 to 2 years being literally, like being a doctor, like being a doctor, like you have to be on the floor for 1 or 2 years to be able to do anything. And I think everybody who has made it in the industry has spent some time on the floor. where integration is happening, where design is happening, and then being able to do what they're doing, because that's where you get the understanding from.
You got to put in the hard yards, right? Without that, we've spent like literally the first few years sweating away, and at least now there is a lot of information. And I remember the days of AMX where we would send an email from my Hotmail account and get some reply on one piece of code 3 days later, and try it out at the site and say it didn't work. So, what do we do now? and of course, then to a point at which now, our engineers get a piece of code already, oh, this is it, just, fitted for this site, this room, and you're done. And it's done within 3 hours, the entire room's commissioned, right? Now, the kind of people we look for are people with a good attitude. We put communication skills a bit lower on the radar, because we try to get folks with good attitude who are willing to work on site, even if they've gotten a title of a design engineer or an application engineer, for a simple reason that this is actually the industry. It's very physical space oriented. So what we try to figure out in the interview is, would this guy be happier to work for a Deloitte back office or a KPMG back office, or would he really think AV is a cool industry? Is he a little more, he or she a little more experimental, a little more relaxed, or too much of a careerist? Because what AV integrators cannot offer you is that path to become senior vice president that easily, right? It's more a practitioner's journey, though I see a lot of global players who do now offer that country manager route or the senior vice president route, but it's rare. So we look for folks who want to use their hands, have a good attitude, and just are a bit more relaxed.
I'm looking for all those things, but more so I'm looking for passion, and I'm looking for curiosity. I need people which are going to look at problems and find different solutions for them, that are committed to taking a problem, owning it to a solution. And it's that passion. And if that's there, the way that information is now available, the way that product is now available, we can POC anything here within a week, generally. Where when I started here back in the early 2000s, we couldn't POC anything. We couldn't bring anything into the country. So the whole thing is, we are able to develop solutions, and for that we need people which are passionate and dedicated and curious.
But how do we get those people?
Now, that's the question that I wanted to ask, literally. I mean, do we have enough talent pool in the country?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Where do you find your people?
I mean, you can find them wherever. Mostly in AV, they always say that you hire from the street. You find somebody doing something good, you're like, hey, you know what? You're being underpaid. Let me get you into AV, and let's work out something better for you. It could be from a retail store, it could be from wherever.
So, in my opinion, I've found that people don't really know about us.
Exactly. The awareness is very low.
There's a huge lack of awareness about the industry.
Yeah, and not only people, whenever you tell that you do AV, then you have to explain 3 more lines of what you exactly do. Yeah. Whereas sitting in a room which will have 4-5 projectors, a couple of speakers, and oh yeah, this is what I do.
Yeah. My in-laws still think I'm a DJ.
That's still a cool profession.
Yeah, so they know I'm the guy with the sound. So whenever there is a family function, I'm called in. Oh, let's call Mr. DJ Wale Babu, and he's the guy who's going to provide sound. So, in a lighter way, because they don't really understand what I mean. For the longest time, my father-in-law never understood what I did for a living.
I think it's going to take about half a generation to maximum a generation more. Let me explain why. Many of the folks that work, many of the folks who work, who are, India is relatively young as an economy, as a free economy, right? The 99-2000 was a time of era where people at least started importing stuff and experimenting and stuff. And so the 7-8 years before that, post-liberalization was just like, oh, we're going to see what's going to happen, right? And 99-2000 onwards, there's been, now, if you look at it, I've had customers or even from overseas partners who come into a particular office and say, this office is actually better than my London office.
Oh, that's what drove the market here. In the early days when Microsoft built their...
That is not good AV.
No.
It's on a lighter note.
We need some noise cancellation systems here.
Separation of audio would be good, yeah. No, I think that India is in a very special place, that we are often directing now where international companies go.
Yeah.
When Microsoft's first building came up, they took us off to Redmond, they took us around and said, look at all this AV. Then we did our own thing here, and what we were doing in India became the global standard for Microsoft.
Yep.
And I think a lot of even with companies that we're currently working with in the financial field or in the banking field, we will have conversations which, because we have 400 rooms here against the 20 rooms in London, we're able to bring about change and new idea. We can get them to try things here. We're more open-minded here, and that is leading to India, certainly in a lot of corporate situations, pushing the envelope and change. That the facilities that are here are better than the facilities they have
Absolutely,
at home.
and that also kind of drives the talent thing, because what happens is when folks work in these offices, they go back on the weekends or they explain in their, it's no longer going to be, oh, you're a sound guy or a DJ. It's because everyone's eventually going to know what an MTR room is or a Zoom room is, and a cafeteria with a touch panel to increase and decrease the volume, and a remote training session. Oh, I attended this, webcasting seminar and stuff like that. So it's going to happen. It's not going to be like a very fast thing, but it's happening. So it's going to be a slower boil. But I think if you tell you're like in a social circle, like I'm an AV integrator, when we set up like MTRs and Zoom rooms, and suddenly people are like, at least in the last year or so, people are like, I know what you guys do. Versus I'm an AV integrator, and can you connect my music to my Bluetooth speaker kind of conversation.
I think for us, we're starting a new company 2.5 years ago. We've had a very strange phenomenon. Now my company is 70% women in the design field. People that, and mostly women with young children, who've been in the industry but have had to come out. And yeah, I think for us as a design house, as a studio developing concepts and designs, the attitude that women bring and the more eye for detail is an amazing thing. And so our staff generally come from junior level in other companies, or we take freshers and bring them up. But again, to your point, Kuldip, people have got to have been on the floor. They've got to have practical experience. You can't be a university-educated person that has never operated equipment or tools in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm repeating myself, but if what we really interview for is where would you rather be? So if we feel that your heart and your mind belongs to a nice, office where you'll get all the facilities and an Innova to pick you up and drop you, and you want to go to a senior vice president, because those are not necessarily AV guys. That's AV-UC guys. That's generally not the trend. It's like people who want to use their hands, their minds, a little bit more practical.
Yeah, but don't you think you'll exclude a lot of people when you say that, we can't do that? I mean,
That's unfortunately the hard
because
reality.
all the good talent, if you see around, would like to do that. Who doesn't like comfort? So people like comfort, and I think
the misfits don't like comfort.
But why?
think it's
You
more about,
can't make anything with a bunch of misfits. You have to have.
Which makes half the people in the room misfits in that sense, right?
That's why this room is so small.
But it's about taking those risks and chasing your dreams in the end of the day, right? So a lot of people, I mean, in my case, I was very much a software developer. I wrote code for the earlier part of my career. And at some point, call it an accident or call it luck in that sense, I found AV, and ever since I've been here stuck ever since. And in that sense, absolute, not stuck is the wrong word. It's actually, I have enjoyed every single moment of working in this industry, and I would not do anything else.
Yeah, but that's because you're a people person, yeah? And I mean, I've known you for a long time. The years I saw you sitting in an ivory tower, you were at your worst. You were at your best in the earlier days when you were in the market, when you were with people, and now you're back to that.
Yes.
So somebody made a mistake.
Yes.
Somebody selected you for a job which you were absolutely not suited for.
I was pushing paper at some point,
Yeah.
and I didn't enjoy that.
No, so you're better out there with the people with your hands on. But one of our questions is very similar to yours, Kuldip. In an interview, we'll ask somebody, where do you want to be in 5 years? What is it you want to be doing? Now, if that is still related to AV, most people don't come and tell me they want to be a senior manager. Most people say, I want to have built up this set of skills, that set of skills, and I want to get to that job title.
No, that's fair. And also to come back to the original discussion of what we're having around managed services, there will be a blend. I think as companies grow, as processes evolve to kind of have a more global standard, especially around the enterprise and even the hospitality route, there will be a lot of roles created which will be similar to those ivory tower roles, even in audiovisual and service provider companies. Not the guys who are fixing, designing stuff, but the guys who are on the managed service side of things, because they have to follow a operating model. So we will see those things. Do they really exist right now? Very little, but trust me, if you're having this conversation about 2 or 3 years, I think we would have a bit of a different spin.
Yeah, I think one of the other areas where managed services are going to come in is in education and healthcare. I still think corporate is not going to happen the way you think, but education, healthcare, those are areas which definitely will go with the managed services model. Yep.
So, which brings me to another question. So you guys are clearly ahead of the curve. You've caught on to this whole managed AV, paradigm really quickly, and you're probably ahead of most of the integrators, most of the contractors in the industry. In that sense, how would you see the whole AV contracting industry? How many are still very traditional AV integrators in terms of percentage? Is it an 80-20 split? Is it 50-50? Do you see this change happening quicker, or you think that we've got a long way to go?
I think we've got a long way to go, first thing, because right now there is no incentive for the customer. I would actually say it's not a product market fit right now at any price. It just doesn't make sense that somebody has to really put the effort to try a new model and get nothing out of it. So till the time there's no significant advantage which a customer can get, it's not a product market fit for now. But yes, we'll keep working on it so that when it becomes, we should be the first one there.
I
And
think
it also drives our passion because we have nothing else to do. That's what we love doing, and that's why we are doing it. Just as a passion project.
Yeah, I agree with Rhythm there. I think right now it's good. We're seeing some. Us personally, we've seen a bit of success selling managed service contracts to mid and large size enterprises. But I would agree with Rhythm. We're still in the early days. There's a lot of things to do ahead. And I also agree with Rhythm's second point, right? If you're not doing things which are going to take you, if you're going to do things which any other integrator is going to do, you're going to get bored on the weekend, right?
Yeah.
So, I heard someone talk in the industry to me, and they said, a phrase caught my attention. He said, dinosaurs of the digital age. And so what makes a dinosaur of the digital age? Is the traditional AV integrator a dinosaur of the digital age? Or is it an evolving phenomenon?
I think it's evolving. It's like at the end of the day, you will know that there are, one of my mentors told me this, there are a zillion ways to make money, right? You just got to be focused on and figure out which direction you want to take. And even in our industry, there are a zillion ways you could make money, right?
You mean we could still be digging ditches and making money, right?
Absolutely. Whatever that is, you could literally sell a product which had peaked 15 years back, like a mount, right? Or you could get into something like a managed service, right? Or into predictive maintenance or stuff like that. So it all boils down to conscious effort which people want to take. And at the end of 10 years, I think guys like Rhythm and I are probably comfortable with saying someone else beat us because they were just making a better mount and they made way more money. And I think I'll still be comfortable with that.
So I see Kelvin smiling there. So he's probably
Somebody's already
has an
making a lot of-
outsider perspective. I mean, he's be like, you guys are so off the mark. I don't know. Kelvin, can you comment?
You mentioned dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs is the digital age.
But what happened to dinosaurs? And it's really a case of natural selection. People and companies will change. If I remember back to what we are when we first set ESCO up and what that was as a company, as to what a system integration company is today, there is manifold change. Every 2 years, you've got to look at it and see, where do I need to be going? And if you don't change, and the dinosaurs didn't change, they died out. So natural selection took over. So that's where the AV industry is, like anything else, whether it's manufacturing cars or telephones or whatever it is. If you don't innovate, if you don't develop, then you will lose, at the end of the day, you will lose relevance.
So in closing, I want each of you to kind of drop closing remarks on this paradigm. Is it a true change? Is it something that we need to pursue? What would you advise the overall integrated community? And more than that, what would you advise the end user community? How should they evaluate this? Is that something that they should look at, or maybe it's not for them? So can you throw some closing comments and perspectives, please?
So I think managed services, if you look at it, it will be implemented in phases. At the end of the day, everything will be a managed service. We don't know when, but in some form, everything is already, this thing. I would say rentalizing of the inventory will be one part of it, independent of the service support part. Second thing is the, remote fixing. So there are two challenges to it. One is that things don't break down so often, like how much they used to break down before. Like the breakdowns are like very, very small. And I think in the next few years, that'll be so insignificant that like an iPhone failing, you will not buy a managed service contract for an iPhone. You would not buy it for an MTR either. You'll just do it. But yeah, we'll still keep working on it and see what we can adapt from the best practices of kind of building a rocket of managed services and see which is the technology we can use, which is very practical, and keep doing that R&D, because that's the only R&D, or like that's one side of R&D which we can do, and that's about it for now for managed services.
And what message do you have to your customers? Is this something that you actively go and evangelize, or is it something that comes from their side?
If they have 200 to 400 rooms, and if they have 200 above rooms, it does make sense to go for an automatic system to test everything, because they don't want users to book the room going down and follow a workflow of somebody reporting the error, and then they're getting escalations, and 2 or 3 days wasted in just the communication happening. I think the first part is that if they really want that kind of uptime, and if they have that kind of manpower and that kind of requirement, yes, sure, they must go in for at least managed diagnostic, if not a managed service.
Fantastic. Kuldip, what are your comments?
I think one of the good things of this whole IT AV revolution is that we now have certain, we are in for some pretty exciting times in the next 2 or 3 years at least. There are, the end user community has started seeing that AV is mission critical. They want, some of the forward thinking organizations want integrators who are a bit more forward thinking, add more value versus just saying you're the lowest on the bid. And we want to kind of try and play that game there. We're also trying to play a lot of game in the global AV market for projects and services. So we feel that managed services is a very important part of trying to be on the upper level of the value chain. Even if it means that you're doing standard jobs and if it means that like you're doing it 75, 80% standard jobs and 20% bespoke jobs for those large enterprises and event spaces. So pretty exciting times.
Kelvin, closing comments from your side.
Yeah, I think where we started, I don't think we still, in terms of the AV industry, we still haven't really determined what managed services means. It means different things to everybody. So I think we've got to first of all get some idea of what that really means and what is the model. As Kuldip is saying, it's an evolving situation. I think that always it has been our philosophy as a system integrator and then later as a consultant that our job continues on past the end of the project, and we have a role to play as the project is in implementation. Managed services can also include training, okay, user training, in-house training, not necessarily technical training. Yeah. It can include physical maintenance. It can include software upgrades. It can include changeover, end of life. There are so many aspects that we have to come back with a model which makes sense, and it will be slightly different for different users. And I believe in the healthcare, education, and government sector, managed services is part of the future of what we need to be doing as an industry.
So do you get called in to write the spec for some of the managed services, just as you would get called for writing products?
We end up post-project completion, yes, we are. We have a section now. We require all of our vendors to stay engaged.
Technical topic.
It was too simple
It's
for
too
anyone
simple
to
a
have any
topic.
questions.
It's a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
So Prashant, I'd like to comment on the point you made about evangelizing, right? And I think that is a bit of the need of the hour, because I think that's one thing at least we don't do very well, of evangelizing newer ideas. I think things like managed services or what's beneficial for the end user. I think the overall software and IT companies take a longer horizon to educate the end users. I think one of the things that integrators or the industry could be doing is trying to take a slightly longer view of this rather than being opportunistic only about things. I think that will hold the bear fruit maybe after 2 or 3 years, or 5 years, but one's got to be a bit patient about things like this.
And to be fair, we haven't really found the right evangelists, to be honest. And I mean, we're also busy, doing our own businesses and day-to-day work. Sometimes it becomes very difficult for us to go out there and basically promote a new paradigm of doing business. I think maybe industry bodies like AVIXA may want to take the lead on that. And I'll use this platform to maybe next time we bring in some end users.
They're too lazy. AVIXA is too lazy doing it.
Oh, well, you don't want to say that now.
It's okay.
All right. Yes, there's a question, please.
Yeah, a question for Mr. Kamat. You said that the AI is helping you to make the BOQ so simpler. Yeah. And also the topic is the managed service in India. So your AI will help the process much easier for the end client, and it will cut the job of like the managed services relevant people in the whoever there in the community or in the ecosystem, and client will the product manufacturer will become OEM and become more smarter product manufacturer, which the client will which will help the client to manage by themselves. Do you see that as a threat?
Well, it's a good question. First of all, we just to clarify, we don't use AI in our BOQ making. We were just playing with it. Till someone actually comes around. I think Kelvin mentioned some startup which is probably doing something around remote monitoring and platformization. And so maybe there's another company which comes in and actually validates it rigorously. We will only believe it then. We don't want to build our own AI models at this point, but we don't mind playing around with it. To come to your second point around the managed services, I think this whole So I try to put myself in the situation of wear the hat of a service engineer, or I try to put myself, wear the hat of a end user or a manufacturer, and then I say, all right, is there going to be a job loss because of this? And I say no, because what will happen is, so one of the things of throwing people at the problem, I think should go away, right? That is not a good use of someone's time to just have 3 people in a large facility turning on and turning off things. You can educate them to do a better job, pull reports, learn around basic analytics of things like room utilization, room readiness, room sweeps, things of that sort. I think manufacturers and platforms will play a bigger role. Integrators, I think, will be a little bit on the follower side of things. But yeah, I think there would be opportunities for people to upskill. Possibly the same person can manage 2 or 3 facilities. Let's say the company expands, they can do that. Their role could also be looking at how hybrid works, because not everyone's always in office all the time. So looking at taking responsibility also for a hybrid ecosystem, security. So it's more an upskilling game.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? We've got about 5 minutes to go, so feel free. Anything else? Do you want to, any broader conclusions? Any messages out there to the world out there, whatever? No.
I think AV is a cool space. AV-UC, I like to say it's AV-UC now. I think people understand us a little bit better, but AV-UC is a important space. It's no longer that you're I've had my number saved as Kuldip Kamat projector by customers, and then 10 years later, I'm like, please, can you edit that, right? And I think
that's at least better than Prashant DJ.
so I think
it's actually son-in-law DJ. That's my official title in the family.
So I think hopefully we become more relevant to the end user. We become more relevant to the community. I hope we start all taking a slightly longer term view versus just slugging it out on RFPs. And I think that's the only way the industry progresses one step at a time.
Thank you, Kuldip. Rhythm. Your studied silence says all.
No, I think no, nothing.
Kelvin?
Yeah, I think each of us, we can say that our industry associations don't evangelize. They're not doing their job correctly and helping the integrators build a market, and not so that is one aspect of evangelization, but I think it's an individual responsibility of every company to go out and talk to end users about the future, to educate them, to encourage them to take steps beyond where they are today. And I think that's a joint responsibility for everyone, and I think we just need to get on and do it. And we'll see our industry continue to grow and develop.
Thank you, Kelvin. And I think that's very well put. Each one of us in this room, each one of us in this conference can be an evangelist. We can go out there in our own communities and talk about the cool things we do. We can talk about how AV is a great career choice, how AV helps people solve problems, become more productive, and in the end, make it a better world. Yeah. And that, I'd like to conclude this discussion, and we're going to be around for coffee and beverages if you want to join us for an offline chat. Thanks so much, and thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you, panelists, for such a wonderful session. And I would request Ms. Smita Rai to please hand over the token of appreciation to our panelists. Audience, please give a huge round of applause for such a wonderful session, such an insightful session.